Welcome to the Heathers on Culture podcast.
Two best friends named Heather,
Policy expert Malveaux and
educator organizer Fleming
dive into the intersections of politics, pop culture, and race with sharp insight and humor.
From Beyonce's reclamation of Black narratives to Kendrick Lamar's lessons in dismantling systems of power,
we will use culture as a lens to unpack today's most pressing social and political issues.
With backgrounds in public policy, law, education, and grassroots organizing.
We will bring depth and lived experience to conversations on critical theories, race, equity, democracy, Black womanhood, and the cultural moments shaping our world.
Expect smart talk,
real laughs,
and fearless takes on everything from current events to cultural icons.
We want to make a critical comment,
meaning that we want to take complex issues in our society
and break them down so that we can better understand what's going on through a critical lens.
And even more importantly, what we can do about it.
So, the government shutdown began on October 1st. House Speaker Mike Johnson passed a continuing resolution on September 19th. It did not include the continuation of the ACA subsidies, or Obamacare as we know it. So, healthcare insurance premiums would double or triple. Chuck Schumer, minority leader of the Senate, decided to shoot a public service announcement calling out Trump and the Republicans, saying that he only had 3 words for them in response to the proposed funding bill, which was no effing way.
Unlike previously that's ever been done, Johnson sent the entire House of Representatives home to their district so that there would be no negotiating on the bill. The Senate had to pass it as written by the House, or the government would shut down, which it did, when no Democrats joined the Republicans to bring them to the needed 60 votes required to pass.
So on November 9th, the 41st day of the longest government shutdown in history, 8 senators caved. 7 Democrats and 1 independent voted to end the shutdown and fund the government without getting anything in return.
On the surface, it looks as if 8 senators decided to vote in favor of this bill in order to restore the funding for the SNAP program and to get our federal workers paid.
But what's really going on, right? Let's make the critical comment.
Well, when we look at those 8 senators, we notice that 2 of them are retiring. 2 are up for re-election in 2028, and 4 of them are up for re-election in 2030.
Right.
That's a long ways away.
Long ways away. Like
Long
literally,
ways
when you tell me I got a guaranteed job for 3 to 5 more years, I'm gonna act a fool. I'm gonna do whatever I want.
And so that's what I feel like. I feel like they did. But more than that, I don't know if this is the time to say it, but I really feel like that was part of the plan.
I mean, it seems like it, because if you have so John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada, and Angus King, the independent of Maine, all voted 15 times with the Republicans to end the shutdown because they felt some type of way about the Democrats using the threat of a shutdown as leverage, right? So they voted 15 times with them because they were just against it or whatever. But that's 3. That ain't the 8 they needed. So then the others come in later and decide that they're going to vote with them on a Sunday night of all times, what American people ain't really paying attention. And basically, did some backdoor deals. But what it looks like is that these 8 were strategically placed as the ones to break rank because they have nothing to lose in the midterms, whereas you have others, right, namely Chuck Schumer, that is up for re-election in 2026 and have a lot to lose if they decided to vote for this, right, and not stand on their air quote so-called morals and just stand 10 toes down on not voting to reopen the government and fund this without any subsidies on the Affordable Care Act.
Honestly, I think this was all calculated, and I think that they were chosen based upon the fact that they depend on Americans not to have a long enough memory to be able to extract vengeance or, to be able to sustain anger towards them. But Twin, Imma let you know this. I literally went into my calendar and I set up reminders for January 2028 and January 2030 to make sure I start social media posts at that time to say, "Hey, hey, hey, you
Mm-mm.
remember? It
Them,
was them that
let
did
them
it."
go.
That's how petty I am. I wanna make sure that people remember that they were the ones that did this, and they did it at a time when I feel like this was working, and even though Dick Durbin sat and came back and said, "Oh, this wasn't working," yes, it was. It was
It
working.
was working, and what it took, so we just had election night 2025 on November 4th.
Mhm.
Democrats blew the thing out the
Everything.
water, right?
Out
Like,
the
this is the
water.
most gains that we've had in years, and it took 5 days 5 days
5 days, twin.
for Chuck and the crew to just blow it up.
I saw a comment where somebody said, "Leave it to the Democrats to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory." And I just think that
Encourage.
that's so true. Like, y'all had the momentum behind you, and the voters showed you that. Like, look at what happened. Virginia, they swept the top seats in the entire state. The governor, the lieutenant governor, and the AG, plus they picked up 13 state seats.
Get up.
Then they broke the supermajority in Mississippi?
Yes, 2 seats were flipped Democrat. We had the first woman governor in New Jersey, first
Yep.
woman governor in Virginia. The lieutenant governor is the first Muslim woman to serve in an office of that caliber. And we have California
Prop
passed
50
Prop 50 to go ahead and redraw these maps so we can counteract the seats that were
stolen.
supposedly gonna be gained and
Stolen.
stolen, right, in Texas. We have the New York mayor now,
Yep,
Ron
Mamdani.
Mamdani, and first Muslim, first Southeast Asian immigrant, and youngest mayor in
Yeah, he's what,
100 years,
34?
34, to be mayor of New York City, right?
Right.
Then we're seeing crowds booing Trump at an NFL game in
I wanna
Washington.
go back to Mamdani and point out something else real quick. And on top of that, they did it without Mamdani having like, full-throated support of the Democratic infrastructure. Most Democratic leaders, there were some people that never endorsed him. And then there were other people that, reluctantly endorsed him so far along the way that it almost didn't matter anymore. And so, like, that should have been the proof. And he did it by coming out and saying, here's exactly precisely what I believe in. Here's precisely what I want. And a lot of the stuff that he said he believes in and he wants ended up being stuff that the Democratic establishment really tried hard to say, well, no, we don't want to really say that because it might not appeal to A, B, and C. So that should have been a huge indication that this is what people actually want. This is
Yes.
when we talk about your base, this is what your base actually wants. They don't want to keep moving towards the center.
They don't, and so let's shout out the Working Families Party,
Yeah.
which is Zoran was a candidate of the
Mhm.
Working Families Party, and so if you don't know what the Working Families Party is, they're building their own party on top of the two-party system in the US, and it's working. Like, they're getting candidates, they're recruiting candidates, having people apply to be candidates, and they're getting them elected across the board, all through the country, right? They moving real silent, but they coming through real big. They're organizing outside the 2 parties. They recruit, they train people to be powerful candidates up and down the ballot, and then they run them to win. And this is all through the Democratic primaries, and most of these people run as Democrats, but they have Working Family Party policies and morals and values and political stances that they're bringing to the forefront. Mamdani was one, and was polling at like 1% when he entered the race to come in and win with a mandate, right? Like
Right.
over 1 million voters
Right.
came out for him. One of the largest turnouts that New York has seen since
Yep.
1969. Because why? People had somebody and something to vote for and not just something to vote
Again.
against.
Yeah.
It's not like choose the, that saying a lesser of two evils. It's like we actually have a good person
Right. This is the
that's
guy that we
running,
actually like.
passionate for the people, pulling up at the parties and, the soca and the reggae, the LGBTQ plus parties, like, Mamdani was just like a candidate for the people and it showed and people fell in love with him. And, New York ain't my city, but I'm just gonna call Mamdani the America's mayor and
Yes.
piss off the other
America's
side.
mayor, they're mad about that, but yes, if they can call Giuliani America's mayor, they can call Mamdani that too. So,
Yes.
you're right, though. You talked about you mentioned the crowd booing Trump
Mhm.
at the NFL game in Washington. I've never seen there was one picture I saw where almost everyone that was standing there had their middle finger up.
I love
Um,
it.
I think that it was just so short-sighted of the administration that during this shutdown, etcetera, that's where they send him.
But
It
it's
wasn't
just
great.
it's the disillusionment that they really are still able to use the same playbook of, if we tell you it, then you believe what we say, right? And
Mhm,
people are past that. Like the disillusionment is gone with this government shutdown, federal workers not being paid to work, being furloughed, him trying to fire folks and, mass firings, people
mhm,
not being able to get access to food through SNAP and WIC. This is apparent that this shutdown is because of the Republicans. They can keep saying that it's because of the Democrats, but it really was starting to resonate with people, and people are starting to believe that it was because of Republicans. And the
yeah.
Democrats, under Chuck Schumer's leadership, come and blow the biggest gains ever. And I'm gonna be
Well,
petty because
you
this is
know
like the Atlanta Falcons when they blew a 35-point lead, but I'm gonna be quiet.
now I
Don't
don't watch
hate us, Atlanta
football.
folks. I'm
I
just
don't
telling
know nothing
you right
about
now. I
that.
just say it. I'm from New Orleans. I can't help myself.
But then I think that the other part where people really felt betrayed is that we were literally organizing in order to make sure that we could support people for the long haul. So, like mutual aid, there was an uptick in it where people were donating to food pantries in order to make sure that they had what they, needed because we saw the pictures of the long lines. I saw there was a story about a man who he just set something up in his yard just for a few things, and then somebody dropped a check for, like, thousands of dollars for him to be able to continue it. So, people were standing up, and then boom, it the Democrats came in and just
For 5 days.
5 days.
5
5 days.
days.
Like, we showed you all that you had the momentum, you had the wind at your back. And y'all came in and swept it. And, here's something for us to really talk about too, because a lot of people misunderstood what Ketanji Brown Jackson did. And so, yes, I think that it's something for people to realize that the Trump administration literally was trying to make sure that people didn't eat.
Yes.
They went and they asked to overturn all of the judges at the lower courts that said, "Hey, you gotta feed these people. You gotta go ahead and send them their SNAP benefits." And Ketanji Brown Jackson, when she received the shadow docket request from the Trump administration, she ended up basically kicking it back. But the reason why she did that was because of the fact that it could be decided much quicker.
And by judges that were mostly appointed by Biden and Obama.
Exactly. And that particular was the First Circuit. And
Coming
so
from Rhode Island, which is her responsibility. Yeah.
a lot of people don't understand that if they would have gone ahead and ruled on it, it could have taken longer for
Or
people
been
to get
shut
their SNAP
down.
benefits.
Or just been shut down. But then here we go tonight. The rest of the SCOTUS
Mhm.
overruled. The extension was supposed to end Tuesday night, so November 11th. And put the stay. She was gonna let it lapse and so that they can go back and make the decision in the lower courts. Since these 8 senators decided to vote with the Republicans and that the House will soon be voting probably Wednesday, November 12th, to reopen the government. The majority of SCOTUS decided that they were gonna extend the stay until Thursday evening to let the government reopen so that they don't have to make a decision in any court about what can be legal precedent to have them fund SNAP fully and to find the money that they need to fund
Yeah.
it because they keep saying they don't have the money. But after things like almost 7 million people going out on No King's Day, 2,700 cities across all 50 states, the largest single day demonstration in US history. And still, it took you 5 days.
Still to
5!
lapse. And I think that when we think in terms of the SCOTUS and Schumer and all of that, it's upsetting because of the fact that the Dems folded on Sunday night, and yet we still have people that are hungry.
Yeah.
And the administration is still trying to make sure that these people remain hungry. And I just really get upset when I hear people that are still like, "Oh, I agree with him." Why? Because at this point, I guess that the cruelty ends up being the point. Because to
Well,
me, if the judges have sat and said, "Hey, you gotta pay these people their SNAP benefits," why are you fighting so hard to not pay people their SNAP benefit?
but not only that, we might get close to it coming, let's say by Thursday, the government is reopened. That don't mean that people gonna get fully funded. They SNAP card gonna be loaded all the way. Might not be overnight. Probably won't be overnight. But you have those that voted the 15 times, namely Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada,
Mhm. Yep.
is saying that it's because this budget will get us to January 30th of
Mhm.
2026. We could come up with another budget in 2026 that will extend the ACA subsidies, and then fund food stamps. But I'm sorry, but money is money. So if you take away some people's SNAP benefits, you got people hungry right now for however long we gonna be into this. 45 days probably by the time it ends. But then when you go ahead and uptick people's health insurance by thousands of dollars extra,
Right. Yeah. It's gonna double or triple.
but people aren't gonna be able to afford it, so they can't afford healthcare, they can't afford food. Like, it just seems like more burdening on the government to take care of people, but obviously they don't care. They don't wanna
Mm-mm.
take care of people.
But
Uh
you know what? Here's an observation that I made on my Facebook page. The reason why a lot of Trump voters still support him is because Democrats have never allowed them to fully feel the pain of his policy. And so they're fine with, to a certain extent, with minoritized groups feeling the pain.
mhm.
But when it comes to white discomfort, because Democrats' strategy is so based in appealing to the middle or trying to pull people from the right over to like win them over to the Democratic side, they stopped short of ensuring that his supporters, which are primarily white people, feel that pain. We can look back at like COVID, and they did a great thing for people that were really struggling through COVID. They worked really hard to ensure that people had checks, they had access to various funding resources, etc.
Uh-huh.
I remember that he delayed getting the checks out because he wanted to make sure he signed his name
That
to
hasn't
them.
signed on a check, which no other First of all, who still get paper checks in the
Right,
2000s or the 10s or the 20s or wherever it
right.
was? Who is get paper checks and why? I don't want a paper check. Put it directly in my account.
Put in my
Unless
account. But
unless I need to get a paper check. But yes, he withheld the
but
check.
there are people that really believed because, that was the move, that really believed that Trump was the one that sent that money to them. And so you keep having the Democrats, first of all, Democrats message very poorly. Trump doesn't have a problem. The Trump administration doesn't have a problem with standing up and taking credit for not only what they did, well, the good stuff they did, if they've ever done any good stuff, but for what anybody else has done.
Mhm.
That's number one. But then number two, they also have a really good habit, a really good messaging system that gaslights people, even about the bad stuff that they've done. Trump truly believes that grocery prices are going down. He
No,
believes
right, 'cause he never knew. He
he
never
didn't
knew the
know.
cost.
Yeah,
He
he's
never knew the
never been
cost.
grocery shopping
What
in
is
his
it I
life.
keep hearing? He keeps saying that Walmart said that Thanksgiving groceries are gonna be 25% cheaper.
But what
I don't know how
Walmart
true
did
that
was went down on the number of items that come in that package. That's number 1. And then number 2, they replaced brand name items with their great value.
Yay!
I just think that right now we need to really address and talk about Schumer is a failed leader.
Such a failure.
He's a failed leader. He's up for reelection in 2026, and so if we think about it, he's a failed leader no matter which way it goes. If he strategized with these 8 senators in order to make this move, he's a failed leader because he does not understand what his base wants, and he does not understand what was happening on the ground. He hasn't touched grass when it comes to
Uh-uh,
grassroots move, okay?
uh-uh.
So either that's the truth of it, or on the other hand, if these 8 went rogue, then he does not have control over his party.
Not at all.
Yeah, because
Not at
'cause I'm
all.
telling you,
Pelosi?
Nancy Pelosi would never.
She
She
would
wouldn't let
never.
that
But you
happen.
know she not running again.
She's not.
She
She's
decided to
not.
retire.
Well, I mean,
She
it's time.
decided to retire. It is
I think it's
time. It's
time.
for a lot of them.
I
Yeah,
think that's part of the problem. The reason why Schumer does not have his finger on the pulse of his base is because the people that he's trying to appeal to the most are decades younger than him. And so it's time to step aside to allow younger leadership to come in and to progress. You got to think about the fact that when Obama ran, they were really angry about that because Obama was this young, upstart kid, and they had already pegged that Hillary Clinton would be the one, would be next up.
yeah, I mean, basically promised it to her.
And
Yeah,
so he comes in and he excites all these people. That's the same reason why they're mad at Mamdani. They already
because
had
they don't want anybody that's exciting and that's actually gonna do things
that's
because
actually going to do
you're
things.
consistently, like, for decades telling us, "If you elect me or if you reelect me, Imma do this." And it's like, "Well, you can't
Then
do it
do
right now?"
do it.
You can't do it right now?
You know what I'm saying? Do
But
it.
but
Like,
let's just talk
I'm
about what they got. These 8 senators that, by no means can we say are liberals. They're centrist. Most of the
yes,
Democratic Party is centrist, if
yes,
not, yeah, majority is centrist.
yes.
But they caved on a pinky promise. I pinky
To have the
promise that
concept of a plan to
yeah,
possibly vote on a possible
because
solution.
Mike Mike
I
Johnson is not gonna call a vote. Like, the leader of the Senate, Thune, said that, "Yeah, if y'all vote this way, what Imma give you is a promise that we'll vote on the ACA subsidies once we reopen the government." But what people don't understand is, like, the House gotta call the vote, and
correct,
Mike Johnson did not agree to call a vote, is not gonna call a vote. And let's
correct.
say for some wild reason that the vote gets called and the Democrats don't
It's
have
fast.
control of the House. They don't have control of the Senate. But let's say again, the Republicans come to their senses and they do vote to say we're going to keep the ACA subsidies. We're going to do what the Democrats are asking us to do. We are going to save the American people from paying these high health insurance premiums. Say they do that. It got to go to the desk of Trump. And the dude hates Obamacare. He thinks it's a failure. He thinks it's stupid. And he ain't going to save it.
Well, and let's be clear, the reason why he thinks that is simply because it's Obama.
Yeah, I mean, he do think that, but also it wasn't his idea. And it wasn't
Exactly.
like he's been saying that he's going to improve it somehow and he's going to fix the broken healthcare system that he has not made a move to do because really like ain't nothing to do but to try to improve on Obamacare by just giving universal healthcare to all. And we just know that's too socialist for them. So they're never going to do something like that. But I'm just sitting up here thinking like, you sat here and made a pinky promise with somebody who you couldn't see their other hand. They had their hand behind their back with their fingers crossed.
The Democrats are Charlie Brown and Republicans are Lucy with the football.
Tell us about it.
And we said, and the Democrats fall for it every single time. Every single time. And it angers me
To put it
to
lightly.
know that that's what they fall for, you know? And the sad part is, again, now they don't have any leverage. Like, we were at a point
None.
where we really had a little bit of leverage. We had the Republicans in a tough spot. Now I realize that Trump doesn't care about anyone except Trump. So he wasn't going to recognize the pain and suffering of other people.
He not.
But we were able to sit and say, okay, now the people themselves can start realizing that he does not care. And that was essential if we're going to win back any part of our democracy. And
Yeah.
so that's the part that ends up being scary is, what does this mean? Like, I literally feel like the current Democratic Party that we have is not up for this fight.
They are not.
And so what that ends up meaning is that we are going to have to be up for the fight. We're going to have to do more. And we did a presentation that we have posted on our YouTube page about Kendrick Lamar and the strategies that he used in order to defeat Drake. And we applied that to the bigger political landscape. So there were 5 different strategies. The first strategy, strategic silence, build quietly but strike loudly. The second one was target systems and not just people. So dismantle the root of the issue, not just the symptoms. The third one was use culture as a weapon. So make truth joyful and unstoppable, rooted in culture and in people. Make sure that we are not just protesting or saying whatever, but that we are really connecting people together and connecting them with the movement. Expose hypocrisy and contradiction. So let systems collapse under their own lie. And then the last one was aim low to go high. Integrity doesn't always equal rules. And I'm going to ask you, which one of those do you think they messed up?
I think that they definitely did not target systems. They are throwing the blame at Trump and Mike Johnson and the current Republican Party instead of looking at what got us here. We have Prop 50 that just passed in California. That's fighting fire with fire, right? Like
That's system.
in Texas, we talking about redrawing maps and gerrymandering along racial lines. And Gavin Newsom said, "Bet, hold my beer. I'm gonna redraw some line. We gonna regain some things."
Want to do it?
But I'm gonna go and I'm gonna ask the people. I'm gonna put it to a vote for the people. But the people stood up and overwhelmingly voted for this, and they're gonna redraw their districts so that we can gain more seats when it comes to elections and representation in the House of Representatives, the Senate, and overall, like the Electoral College, right? But you have people like Schumer not speaking up to say like, oh, that's a good way to go, but also just pointing the finger at Trump and Republicans. He did a public service announcement calling out Trump and current Republicans when like the system itself is set up to get us here. You literally just used what you had in your arsenal. The only thing you had in your arsenal was to do this government shutdown, let the American people suffer briefly so that we won't have to suffer for the long haul. But you didn't even use the system to your advantage. You basically sat here again with this pinky promise. We're going to sit here and we're going to pinky promise you, right, that
Right.
we're going to hold this vote when they don't have to hold this
They don't
vote. And
have
if they
to.
do, they're going to lose anyway. Even if they do it to placate you, you're going to lose the vote.
Right.
And you have no leverage. So you literally said, I'm going to rely on the people who are not doing good right now, who are
Right.
allowing people to starve, who are using food as a bargaining chip when no other
Right.
president during a government shutdown has cut off SNAP benefits except this current administration
Yep.
with contingency funds to be able to pay for this, which that $5 billion mysteriously went away somewhere, right? That's a
Yeah.
whole nother story.
Mm.
But Schumer and company decides that they just gonna place all the eggs in a basket of the people who are doing this to the American people.
Exactly. And so connected to that, I think the biggest one was number 4, which is expose hypocrisy and contradictions so that you can let systems collapse under their own lies. They did not do that. And I think that that ends up being like the biggest issue that I have with Democrats. Again, let some of these systems collapse. And this was a prime opportunity for this to happen. Now, am I saying that I would have rejoiced at people starving? No. We need to go ahead and protect as many people as we can. But again, we have people that were organizing to do that. I'm an organizer. That's precisely what was going around our networks. What can we do? How can we help people? How can we ensure that the most vulnerable of us will not feel the impact of it while the Democrats hold the line? And
And
so
not
because of that, they always fall short of letting some systems collapse. Here's another example. We were starting to see more and more the airline industry, and we heard everything. Everybody has received like the notifications over and over again about all the delays and all the canceled flights and things like that. That's a system that we needed to let collapse temporarily. And
mhm.
again, I'm not trying to be radical, but for people to honestly see what the impact of some of these policies are, and more than that, to see that this administration does not care, then we needed to let stuff happen. And they didn't do that. And so you still have a lot of people like on my Facebook page, I have someone that, used to be a minister in my childhood church. And he's arguing with me because even as a Black man, he is very pro MAGA.
Mm.
And it's because of the fact that he still has not really felt the impact of some of these decisions that are being made. One of the things that we really honestly need to acknowledge is that some of this stuff, they already told us they wanted to happen as part of Project 2025. They
Yes.
told us that they wanted to make sure that people were uninsured. That's the bigger problem that I have, is that they have literally laid out their game plan and the Democrats still have no defense against it. And more than that, they don't have any offense
Mhm.
in order to ensure that this stuff doesn't happen. They keep giving in to the very things that Project 2025 outlined and said, here's what we're going to do. So, Twin, listen, in the end, what's our ultimate takeaway?
My ultimate takeaway is just that, one, I don't wanna sit here and pretend like I'm feeling what people are feeling out here. I don't work for the federal government. I'm not using the Affordable Care Act for my health care.
Right.
I am not on SNAP. I have the means to shelter myself, feed myself, and get my needs and my wants met at this moment.
Mhm.
I'm getting my paycheck every 2 weeks. So not even wanting to pretend like I'm not sitting in a place of privilege
Right.
when it comes to that. But at the same time, like, I am so just upset at the thought of how far we've got. According to Reproductive Freedom for All, right? They've been tracking along with others. 48% of Project 2025 has been implemented.
Yeah.
A good chunk nearly 40% of those policies attacking reproductive freedom are completed or in progress. And so this is yet another thing that is being thrown on top and stacked on top of a house of cards that's bound to collapse at some point. The weight is becoming unbearable. And all of us are feeling this in different ways, and I sympathize, I empathize with those that cannot feed themselves right now, feed their children. They're not having a paycheck coming in. But at the end of the day, the thought of families having to pay $10,000, $15,000 more a year for healthcare when
Yep.
people are already struggling with the cost of food and the cost of living, rent, housing, all of these things, while they're bargaining people's food or having lavish parties at Mar-a-Lago with boatloads of shrimp cocktail and crab legs and all of these things. I don't want it to be lost on myself or, our listeners that we don't understand what it would mean for them to hold the line longer than what they have, and temporary suffering of those that are at the bottom end of society as far as poverty and
Yeah.
money and income goes. But we're all gonna get there if we're paying $10,000 to $15,000 more a year for healthcare. The middle class is consistently shrinking, and the those at right above and below the poverty line, those numbers will only grow.
I
What's your takeaway, twin?
My takeaway is that we really need to examine a few different concepts, and we can do this in further episodes. But right now, we are really struggling under the weight of white liberalism. We're struggling under the weight of respectability politics. We're struggling under the weight of nice racism,
Mhm.
where everyone's trying to be nice. So we didn't even talk about number 5, the aim low to go high. We're trying so hard to be nice about all this when the reality needs to be that we got to get some gumption, we got to get
Mhm.
some fire underneath. So when I say we, I'm talking about the Democratic Party, but it just is in general. Any of us that are concerned about our country, want to save our democracy, want to see things change, we've got to get some fire underneath us. And so, in future podcasts, we can kind of talk about what we need to do to organize, how we need to start looking at some of this stuff and fighting back.
All right. So to end out our podcast, we decided that we were going to do Black Joy moments because one of our Kendrick strategies was to use culture as a weapon and to make our truth joyful and unstoppable. So, in light of that, we are going to share what brought us some Black joy this day, week, or month.
Yes. So, what brought me some Black joy this weekend is that I and my dissertation team passed our comprehensive exams. And
Woo! Woo!
so we have officially moved from doctoral students to doctoral candidates. Swam, what about you?
Okay, so I have two. One
Okay.
is I went to Xavier University of Louisiana's homecoming this past weekend, the tailgating, went to the basketball game, all that good stuff, and did it with a friend of over 20 years because this was her 20th anniversary of graduating from Xavier.
Wow.
And my second is I saw an Instagram video that it is officially R&B sweater weather. Or was it an R&B coat weather, right? Dude went outside because we gotta go outside and test the weather. We gotta go
Right.
put our
Right.
hand out there to see how cold it is. And then he went back inside, and then he came out to the instrumental of Carl Thomas with his turtleneck on and his slacks and his R&B coat. And then he put his glasses on to finish. So it is officially R&B sweater and coat weather. Not just sweater weather, but R&B sweater and coat weather. So that was my Black Joy moments.
I love it. I love it. Yes, hopefully we've been able to give you all a few insights about what's going on right now as far as the shutdown is concerned, and a little bit more about what we need to be fighting for. We really hope that you will join us in the future for future podcasts. We want to highlight the fact that you can contact us, ask us any questions. My email address is Fleming, Fleming, at heathersonculture.net. And twin?
And mine is Malveaux, Malveaux, at heathersonculture.net. And you can also find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for Heathers on Culture and you'll find us. So give us a follow, give us a like. Tell us what your Black joy moments were or just your moments of joy. And also tell us what you thought. What would you like to hear about? What resonated with you? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time,
Yep, until
thanks
next
for
time.
joining us.